want to build a team of some very bad people who I think can do some good.
Y'all jokers must be crazy.
I'm not just one of your many toys.
What?
Suicide Squad is the third movie in this new DC extended universe. A lot of people walked away from Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman with very divisive opinions, so this was the one that was supposed to bring it all home. I think I could say pretty safely that this movie was my most anticipated of this year. What about you?
Oh, yeah. I looked forward to it. Even from last year, I was like, ooh, Suicide Squad's coming out.
Yeah, I was looking forward to Batman v Superman, but I was really looking forward to Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I think this was number one on my pick list that I needed to see.
Exactly. So, yeah, we've been dying to see this. A lot of the early reviews started coming out and started shitting all over this movie, which kind of made us a little bit nervous. So we've seen the movie, making up our own opinions. What'd you think?
I love it.
So did I.
Fuck what other people feel.
I don't know.
Judge movies based on things.
Yeah, I don't know if it's... I feel like a lot of people and a lot of critics must have walked into this expecting this to, like, make up for Batman vs. Superman or, like, give them something extra as, like, a payback. And I think that there was a lot of unfair pressure and a lot of unfair criticism on this. I don't understand why it has a 27 on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, 27% of critics giving this a positive review is pretty insane to me.
I just feel like it's, we've got so many things came out within the past year or year and a half. You had Deadpool come out. You had
Civil War and Batman vs. Superman and X-Men and
because a lot of things come out. You had the Avengers all come out again. So I feel like at this point, some of the reviewers are kind of like, oh, they're just beating a dead horse. Oh, it's another one of those fucking movies.
Well, I think, they have way too much now to compare it to, and they're not, I think a lot of them
aren't. They're not walking in with an open mind like we did.
Well, no, it's not that they're open with an open mind. I think that they're not reviewing it as its own movie. They're reviewing it compared to whatever their favorite movie they've seen this year. They're like, well, was it as good as Civil War? No. Okay, well, I'm going to give it a negative review.
I enjoyed it. Fuck what anyone else says. Go see this shit.
I do. I loved it a lot. So we're going to keep this pretty spoiler free. We may get into some spoilers later, but yeah, from the beginning, we're going to recommend seeing this.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the characters, which are all going to be on my good list as far as things about this movie. So we'll start with Will Smith's Deadshot. What do you think of Deadshot?
I enjoyed him. It's kind of funny because I haven't ever read comics. Before really dating you, I hadn't really seen too many superhero movies or anything like that. So to kind of see them was neat for me and learning about them, kind of. So I like Deadshot. I feel like he, not that he has superpowers or anything, he's just awesome at shooting.
Yeah, he's just the highest marksman in this DC comic world, pretty much. He's shown up. He's always pretty much been a member of the Suicide Squad. He's shown up in the Arkham game, so I know a little bit about Deadshot. I liked Will Smith, what he did with this. I was worried a lot that he was going to be, overshadowing and taking over everything and kind of being the one in the center of the screen the whole time. And I don't feel I do have some opinions on it, which I'll get into in a little bit, but I don't feel like it was quite as bad as I was expecting it to be. But I feel like this is Will Smith at his best. This is the Will Smith that everybody grew up to love. This is the Will Smith that used to own the summer. He's got a lot of the best lines. He's funny. He's engaging. He's charming. He commands the screen, and he's probably one of the most, if not the most, complex people on the squad. He's got this relationship with his daughter, and he's trying to. He's a bad guy, but you could tell he has inklings to be good, and
he's a bad guy, but he's a good father.
Yeah, to a degree,
from what we see. But like even how you were saying we were afraid he would overshadow everybody. It was really cool. He really complimented all the other characters in the movie. His relationship with Harley Quinn was pretty.
Yeah, they had a lot of really good back and forth too. So we'll go ahead and start talking about Harley Quinn then. So Margot Robbie was probably the only person in this movie that I had no worries about. I knew as soon as she was casted, I was like, okay, she's going to be awesome as Harley Quinn. And this is the first time we're seeing Harley Quinn on the big screen. So what'd you think of Harley?
I love her.
I think she was pretty much the character that everybody was looking forward to seeing the most.
She's so crazy and funny.
As popular as the Joker is, you can make that argument nowadays that Harley Quinn might be more popular because you see her like she's all over everything on Hot Topic. She's the one. She's
the sexy fucking crazy bitch that you don't fuck with.
Exactly. She's like that perfect mix of fun and insane.
Yeah.
And Margot Robbie really killed it as her. She had that charm and that zaniness where you're like, man, I could see why anybody would kind of fall under her spell.
Yeah,
and then,
it's going to be hard for anybody if, say there's a sequel and for some reason she can't play Harley Quinn. It's going to be hard for anyone to top her.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, DC did a good job picking her.
Yeah, she was awesome. And then probably my third favorite character of the squad was Diablo. And he was one that I didn't know anything about going into this. He was played by Jay Hernandez, who was just in Bad Moms. He's the widower guy.
Oh, the hot dad. Yeah.
So he rivals Deadshot as probably the most complex character in this. So
with his backstory, he's got a really traumatic backstory that you find out later on into the movie. But I enjoyed him.
He has a pretty cool thing where like she said, there's something tragic has happened to him, so he's kind of like given like a vow of peace somewhat, where he won't use his powers and he won't lift a finger to do any violence or anything like that. So he was a pretty interesting character in the
I enjoyed him a lot. He had a lot of like good versus bad going on inside of him. Mm-hmm. Because he's a bad guy. He felt sorry for a lot of the shit that he had done, but knowing being good's not going to make up for it. So I feel like he battled that a lot in the movie. Mm-hmm. And
something that I'm shocked to say, because I've always hated this fucking guy, but Jai Courtney was hilarious in this movie. He played Captain Boomerang. And, just about every movie, he's one of those guys that Hollywood's kind of shoved down our throats. They did it with Colin Farrell back in the early 2000s. They did it with Taylor Kitsch. They did it with Sam Worthington, where they get like one good role. And then Hollywood's like, all right, guys, this is your new guy. He's going to be in everything. And
I don't know what else he played in.
He was in,
for people like me, who else?
He was in Jack Reacher. He was in that Die Hard sequel that never happened. He was in that most recent Terminator movie that everybody hated. I think he was in Spartacus.
Okay, so in other words, everything that I haven't seen.
Yeah, and not all those movies are his fault, but even the ones that were good, he's just not good in them. When he's up front and center trying to be serious, or he's the main guy, he can't do it. But as this little side character, he did damn good. He would show up here and there. He didn't have a lot to do, but when he did show up, he had a lot of good back and forth with Diablo. There was probably one of the biggest laughs in the movie was whenever he was kind of taunting him about his fire powers.
He had a lighter.
Yeah, and they let him use. He is Australian, so they let him use his real accent, and it adds to the humor. With the whole boomerang thing. So I liked him a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Rick Flag is one that I think a lot of people are going to walk away not thinking much of because he's kind of the least interesting because he doesn't have any powers. He's just the soldier that gets put in charge of these guys. Yeah. But I've always liked Joel Kinnaman a lot, and I felt like he brought enough to Rick Flag that he held his own against the team. You know what I mean? Everybody's got powers or certain things that make them unique, and Rick Flag's just kind of your stock soldier. Mm-hmm. But I thought he did pretty good with that. And
I can't say that I really loved him.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people are probably going to feel like he was kind of the weaker end, but I think a lot of my appreciation for his character is just because I've always liked Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say, after seeing the movie and seeing all the characters, he had more than some of the other main characters had, so I wouldn't say that he was a weak link by no means. But. Mm-hmm.
And the other like metahuman in the group was Killer Croc. Now, Killer Croc is kind of one of like the B villains for Batman. And he's one of those guys that I always thought, okay, they're never going to be able to bring this guy to screen and have it look right. Because in the comics,
he looked badass.
In the comics, he's always this monstrous, crocodile. He's almost like Godzilla size. Yeah. And even in the video games, he's just huge. So you would think that they would always have to be a CG character, but they really did a good job at putting makeup on this guy. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because he's got a crazy name. But he was pretty cool. He didn't get a whole lot to do. But when he was on screen and he had a line here and there, I thought he did really well. He had that growl for like the crocodile look, and he had this like hulking this Hulk build to him, and the makeup was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I liked seeing him a lot. It was really cool. Like you say, how you always picture him kind of just a giant monster.
Yeah, he's
crocodile.
literally just a crocodile that can talk
he's
in
just
some of the comics.
a man croc in the movie, and I really enjoyed his character. They did awesome with the makeup and everything. And you say he had more than one line, but I can only recall one line.
He just had a couple of one-liners. You know, he had where like I live in the sewers, or So yeah, he had a few. And then I think the last one that we haven't talked about is Katana, which I don't really have a whole lot to say because she was kind of which we'll get into in a little bit too, but she kind of got the short end of the stick as far as the group.
And Enchantress, I enjoyed her a lot.
I liked her in the first act of the movie. I thought she looked really cool when she had the witch look. She looked a lot like that monster at the end of the Evil Dead remake. And, like they had like this kind of smoke effect around her, and there's a really cool effect whenever... the character, I think her name was June Moon, the human side of her, whenever she wanted to kind of summon the Enchantress, she would just whisper Enchantress, and then there was this really cool scene in an office, or in a like an Oval Office meeting, where she says that, and this black hand kind of comes out of the table and grabs her hand and turns her into the Enchantress, and that was a really fucking badass effect.
Yeah, I liked that a lot.
I liked how she looked a lot, and I was on board with her for the first act, and unless you have a different opinion, I'm going to get into her when I start talking about some negatives.
No, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed her. That was probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, though, is kind of with her at the beginning and explaining how they found her and, why she's inhabited this person and everything. So yeah. I thought her character was pretty interesting and had pretty cool things about her.
Exactly. So, yeah, as a whole, I think all the chemistry between all the squad members was really good. You could tell that they all had fun making this movie, and you could tell that they were all friendly with each other. There wasn't really anybody that you could get a feeling like they were a stick in the mud or just didn't gel with everybody. Everybody had an interaction with other characters, like we were talking about. Deadshot and Harley Quinn have a lot of really good back and forth.
They do.
The chemistry between all the squad members is the heart and soul of the movie, and I thought all of those scenes that they had between each other were really good.
Yeah, you can tell that they click off screen. You got some movies where it's just like, you can tell they've just played the characters and they probably hate each other off screen because the chemistry on camera isn't super great. But these actors and actresses looked like they've been best friends forever. Like this is the movie and the people that they were meant to play and be. Mm-hmm.
Something I probably should have started with, but I'll go ahead and talk about it now just a little bit. So the basic story of Suicide Squad, for those that don't know, is, this is the third movie in this DC universe, and this is, spoiler alert for Batman v Superman, but this is post-Superman sacrificing himself and dying. So in Superman's death, now they have this government operative named Amanda Waller, who is trying to put together this team of bad guys and have them kind of on the back burner in case something like another Superman comes along that is not good. Mm-hmm. So that's the basic idea of the movie. But
everybody's seen the trailer when she's like, I want to get a group of bad people to do a really good thing.
We like to say everybody, but I always kind of try to cover all my bases just in case somebody's listening to this that hasn't heard of the movie. Mm-hmm. But so getting back into some of the good things, another good thing, which also kind of ties into what I was saying with the chemistry, is there's a lot of fun in this movie. This movie is night and day from a lot of the problems that they had in Batman v Superman, where it was just dark and somber and gloomy, and everybody was sad and mad and angry. And this is a fun movie. And there's a lot of sharp dialogue, like most of it's for Will Smith, but Harley Quinn's got a lot of really good lines. Boomerang's got a lot.
Even with the Joker, I found myself giggling a lot about the Joker, and not only me, but I heard it throughout the theater. Someone giggling or someone saying, "Oh, that's cool," or that's kind of interesting. So
yeah, you're laughing throughout of it, and there's some dark tones here and there, but it never loses sight of that sense of fun.
I
never felt like I was bored. I never felt like I was depressed or like I was getting drugged through this moral swamp. It was fun throughout the whole movie.
They had some scenes in their backstories that kind of tugged at your heartstrings, but then again, like you said, it doesn't put you in a down mood.
It doesn't change
the tone.
A downer. It doesn't change the tone of the movie. And there's probably the last half of the movie is pretty much all action set pieces. I
Yep.
thought the action was directed really well. You know, David Ayer is a really good action director. He did Fury, which is probably his best movie, and End of Watch, which is a damn close second. And even though Sabotage is not a very good movie, there was some good action in that too. But he does really good directing action, and this movie is no exception. Now, getting back to characters, the one character we haven't talked about is Jared Leto's Joker. So what do you think of him?
I really enjoyed his character after seeing, him in other Batman movies and everything, and not quite sure how to picture him when we were first able to see, this is what the Joker's going to look like. It was kind of shocking to see how different they went with things. Granted, it's the same type of guy, green hair, crazy red lips, everything. I enjoyed his character a lot. He was funny, scary, but not in a super scary. I don't even know if scary would be the right word to use for him. But
intimidating.
Yeah, intimidating.
Well, they had a really tall order to fill with this because Heath Ledger. Yeah, Heath Ledger back in The Dark Knight gave and as great as I like Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah.
And as great as he is and possibly will be in further movies, Heath Ledger probably will still go down as the best Joker we've ever seen. So you're always going to have people who are going to compare him to Heath Ledger, regardless how good that he does. And there are some people out there too that still hold Jack Nicholson's Joker from 1999 as the best. So he had a real tall order at trying to find something unique, which they've already covered a lot of spectrums with the Joker. They had Cesar Romero all the way up to Heath Ledger, and a lot of people bitched about the way that they looked, like with the tattoos and the metal grill, and I wasn't over the moon about the look of him, but I like the fact that they were trying to do something drastically different. And as far as how he is in the movie, he's kind of like somewhere in between Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger. He's kind of that crazy psycho sociopath version of the Joker, but he's also that comical, he takes a lot of elements from the animated series. I felt he was like a clown Scarface. And I think what they did the best with him too is that the relationship between him and Harley, I thought they did really good. That was the main thing that a lot of people were looking forward to. I mean, people love the character of Harley Quinn, but she's nothing without the Joker being out there somewhere. Mm-hmm. So I thought that their back and forth and their relationship and their scenes together, both the flashbacks and the present time stuff, was all awesome. And I really would almost want to see a movie with just them.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a successful movie with the two of them. Mm-hmm. They're both very popular characters. Everybody loves them, like you say. And just the dynamic between the two of them is interesting. We enjoyed it. We liked it the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. And they did announce a Harley Quinn movie, so I'm curious if it'll be just her or if they're going to keep it with her and the Joker.
They have to add Joker in there.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it'd be stupid.
Mm-hmm. And the other character that they added in here in a few scenes that I thought they did really well with was Batman, which it's not really a spoiler. They have it in the trailers, but they have him kind of sprinkled in a few scenes here and there as kind of just as a device to make this all feel like one universe. And whenever Batman shows up in the small pieces that he does, it makes you feel like you're in a comic book, because he literally just like floats out of nowhere in this alley. And I thought that was really cool. And it was cool seeing, Ben Affleck come in just to do a few scenes for this.
Yeah, that was cool. And they also announced that, not sure if everybody knows, but the Flash was in it was like a mini cameo. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool seeing him in there.
That was cool, and he looked really cool, and it made sense. But at the same time, it felt a little bit odd that they threw him in there, being that we haven't seen him in a movie yet. We haven't seen the Justice League, we haven't seen the Flash movie. So I mean, I know most people know who the Flash is, but throwing a character in there with a cameo that we haven't been introduced to in this universe yet was a little bit odd for me. Yeah. But I did like that scene, being that I know the Flash.
Yeah,
but I can see some people seeing that and being like, wait, who's that guy? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was cool too.
That might be one of the reasons that it got a lower score on Rotten Tomatoes, is because reviewers know and they pick up on stuff like that. Like little things like that probably irk them.
Well, we're getting ready to talk about some of the things that we thought were negative in this movie, and I'm not sure if that was it. I think a lot of critics they held on to the few things that they saw as flaws, and they blew them up to be a lot more than what they really were. We were talking about, it's got a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. In Independence Day Resurgence, which is probably the worst reviewed movie in years, and everybody's talking about that like that movie is an absolute abomination. That movie's got a 33. So
Ghostbusters had higher too, right?
Ghostbusters has got 74.
That was another movie.
It's ridiculous.
That was another movie.
Jason Bourne's got
great.
a 56. Like this, I mean, I'm not going to go on a rant about the critic scores and everything like that. I don't buy into the whole thing about critics having a bias against DC or being paid off by Marvel or anything like that. But I do think that they're judging this movie unfairly because this movie does not deserve a 27. Like, I would still be a little bit salty about this movie having a score in the 50s, but that at least would be more acceptable. But yeah, 27% is a little ridiculous.
It's just like anything else. It's your own opinion. Don't go by what someone says.
Well, yeah, I'm big on that too. Is that if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But still, as a whole, I don't understand that rating at all. But let's talk about. Is that pretty much all that you want to talk about as far as good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, overall, the movie was really, really great. I don't understand where all the bad shit came from. Fuck whoever said it was a terrible movie.
Well, let's start talking to some of the negatives, which I know most of these are probably going to be mine, but you can disagree or throw in your own as I kind of go into these. One of the main things which hit me from the beginning of the movie was like the first half of this movie has a lot of music in it. Like there's Rolling Stones and there's AC/DC and Eminem, and it felt really jarring to me. It didn't really feel like it was naturally in there. It felt like a music video. It felt like the studio was trying to manipulate you into feeling like this was a fun movie by putting the music in there. Like they couldn't just let the scene or the actors bring the fun. Like they had to okay, let's throw in Sympathy for the Devil. That way they know that this is a fun movie like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it was a little too much.
And I mean, it was really bad. Like, how when you're in the car with somebody and they're driving and they let about 30 seconds of a song play and they skip to the next one,
Cody
and then
gets
30
mad
seconds of the song
time.
play and they skip to the next one. That's what the first half of this movie felt like with the music to me. It was irritating the shit out of me. And it really felt like the first half of this movie was the studio edit. There's a lot of reports going around that there was 2 edits of this movie that kind of were battling. There was David Ayer's more kind of serious version, and then there was the studio version, which had a lot more fun music video type elements to it. And to me, it felt like the first half of this movie it had studio fingers all over it. It didn't feel like something that David Ayer would choose to do.
Yeah, then again, it was a PG-13 movie too, so it's like if you want your kids to be into it, you don't want to spend money on tickets for your kids to eat popcorn and drink drinks and watch this movie, and the whole time they're just sitting like waiting until something happens. So a lot of that also could have been for them.
I don't think that really makes. I don't think that they would do that because a lot of those songs is classic rock. It's not like songs of today that kids would recognize. It's like I said, it's Rolling Stones and stuff. Just to me, it felt like they were trying to take what Guardians of the Galaxy did and kind of, the music in Guardians of the Galaxy. Not to compare this movie to a Marvel movie, but this is a valid comparison. There's a plot device that brings all those classic songs into it. It's Star-Lord's tape. And, there is a fun factor in that movie that comes from all those classic, love songs and everything like that that's in that movie. But with this movie, it just kind of felt like it was injected into scenes where it didn't need to be. The last half of the movie is all a score. There's no just music thrown in.
Yeah, well, it's all action, too. It'd be hard to do a lot of that shit to action.
Well, I don't know about that, but just to me, it felt like 2 halves. They had the first half that was like a music video, and the second half, it felt like it was, David Ayer's movie. But the main weakness that everybody's talking about as far as a lot of the critics and the reviews that I've read, which I do agree with, is Enchantress. I liked how she was the first third or so of the movie.
Yep.
But once she kind of turned into the villain and she changed her look and everything, and it started looking like something out of the Sci-Fi Channel, like a real low budget, student-made version of The Mummy or something like that. I hated the way she looked after that, and it wasn't near as cool as how she looked whenever she was more like the witch.
Yeah.
And she was a really, really weak villain, her and her brother. And they felt, to me, like they were really out of place in the movie.
Yeah, it made sense why they had them as the villain type of way after you see the movie, but you're right, they could have. We talked about this earlier before we started the podcast, but they could have done something as far as made Joker.
We'll get into that here in a second because we're going to talk about the Joker on this side too. But yeah, I thought she was a really weak villain as far as something for this team to take down. It just felt like something else. It didn't feel like a comic book movie whenever they were on screen. It felt like something, like Gods of Egypt or something.
And it's stupid, not to be too much of a spoiler, but once you see how they defeat her,
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, you're just like, what?
Just
really?
about,
That's it?
Yeah, just about everything surrounding her and her brother. Like their minions, where like they can take over people, and then they look like you called them what? Blackberries.
Like they were blue. It looked like a blue raspberry blackberry mix.
Yeah, they're
Their
like
face
little.
were like the geese the geese that we see at Lake Mare.
Yeah, they're like little silly putty people, and like they're not threatening, and they look really silly. And to me, it almost was like they were afraid to have human villains. Like they didn't want to have a bunch of shooting people in this movie. They just wanted something that people could remove themselves from, and they're just taking out cannon fodder.
It was strange to think this witch or whoever she was needed minions, and then like the whole thing how they turned her into an Egyptian. They could have used mummies or something different that was a more menacing
something like that
minion.
Yeah, so the villains and their minions were not good in this movie.
Nope.
As much as I like Joel Kinnaman, and I did like his version of Rick Flag, I noticed a lot in the movie that sometimes he would talk like Joel Kinnaman, and sometimes it felt like he was doing a Chris Kyle impersonation, from American Sniper.
Yeah.
And he'd talk like Joel Kinnaman does in anything that he's played in, and then he would have this real thick Texas drawl 1 second, and then the Texas drawl would go away, and felt like it was really off and on, and it was kind of distracting for me because it felt like he was. I don't know if it was an editing thing or if he is not as good at putting on a Texas accent. 'Cause I think he's either Danish or Dutch or something like that. But
I thought you
maybe
said he was wait, which one is he? Which one is
Rick Flag, the soldier.
Okay.
Yeah. So to me that was a little bit. I mean, it's a nitpick, but to me that was a little bit jarring. I could have used a lot more Captain Boomerang.
I agree with that completely.
He was really funny, and he was used well in the movie, but I could have used more of him. And going along with that, Killer Croc and Katana, which we've already kind of talked about, they really got the short end of the stick as far as the squad goes. Killer Croc had some good one-liners. He had a couple of good scenes.
There was so much more he could have done.
Yeah, and Katana, really, aside from the one scene where she was shown talking to her little soul sword or whatever, I can't remember anything that she did in the movie.
No.
Aside from just her introduction. You have a little bit
of a flashback as to who she is. She felt out of place to me, but then again, in the movie, she was kind of the
bodyguard for Rick Flag.
Yeah, the bodyguard, exactly. And she was like the one that was like, hey, I'll fuck you up if you step out of line and stuff like that. But
now the other character, which a lot of people were talking about this before the movie came out, because they would show him in some of like the squad pictures and promotional images and stuff like that, but they would never show him in the trailer. They would never list him on the poster.
I wonder why.
Slipknot was complete fucking waste in this movie. Like he's literally in it for like 5 minutes. And
we're not even kidding.
Yeah, I mean, he's barely worth mentioning. He's
with
in
the
it.
Credits.
Yeah, he's barely worth mentioning. So I don't know if there's some Slipknot super fans out there. I'm not talking about the band.
Nope.
But just, don't go to this movie for Slipknot.
Not at all.
And then keeping with what we're talking about, people being underused, which you were already kind of starting to hint at. I felt like they really underused the Joker. He's in it. He's kind of just in the background and shows up here and there, but he was such a big part of the marketing. They had made such a big deal at talking about all these crazy things that Jared Leto was doing on set, like sending people rats and used condoms and throwing a dead pig on the table reading, and just doing all this crazy shit, getting into the role of the Joker, trying to mirror a little bit of what Heath Ledger did.
Probably paled in comparison.
Well, yeah, exactly. But they've made such a big deal about all these things, and he's not in the movie all that much. He's in a couple of flashbacks with Harley. He's got a few scenes with her. She's trying to get her back, basically.
Yeah.
And
as far as rescuing her.
Yeah, and both of us, by the end of the movie, I mean, I guess this is not going to be for everybody, because if you don't like Jared Leto's Joker, it's probably a good thing for you. But with us, that we did like Jared Leto Joker, we walked away thinking, man, I wanted more Joker. And to me, the movie would have benefited a lot more if they would have just thrown away all this Enchantress shit, and they would have just made the Joker the main villain of the movie.
Yep. And
they could have had a really good conflict between Joker and Harley. There's a few times in the animated series where Joker's a dick and Harley's kind of, being the mad girlfriend. They could have had something like that where they have some kind of a split, and then now she's part of this team and is forced, to take down the Joker. And then obviously everybody knows that she would never end up turning on the Joker completely. They'd probably get back together by the end of the movie. But that just sounded like that would have been a much better setup to me.
Yeah, I feel like the Enchantress and her brother were kind of wasted And yeah, they could have used Joker or Jesus Christ, anybody for that.
Well, I mean, yeah, anybody would have been better than what we got, but just the fact that they already had the Joker there, and you got Jared Leto, an Oscar winner, playing him, like, that's just such a weird choice to underuse that character, if anybody. Like,
I agree. They should have used it to their advantage.
Yeah, and just like I said, he would have been a much better villain, and they could have sprinkled Batman in a lot more. Like maybe Batman was coming in to try to take him out too, so they could have more scenes with him coming through. And I don't know, that's something that obviously I didn't write the movie and I didn't direct the movie, but if I was making Suicide Squad, that's the direction that I would have taken.
I tell you what, one of the best scenes in the movie was, and they had it in one of the trailers, when Joker and Harley are in their car and they're going, and then bam, Batman's on the fucking roof, and then that was one of the best parts. And I don't know if it's because you've got three of the main characters, the most beloved characters, all in a scene together because they work so well together or what, but man, they could have thrown so much more Joker, so much more Batman, and I feel like people would have liked it a lot more. Yeah,
and what you're talking about with that scene too, and the reason why that scene is so great is because the Joker and the Harley Quinn and the Batman interaction in that scene is classic Joker, Harley, and Batman. It's straight out of the animated series. You got Joker and Harley joking around, having this nice back and forth about him ruining date night and everything like that, and just Batman shows up, and Batman's this, this fucking dark force in Gotham, and they're laughing it off like, oh, this motherfucker again. And like that's pure gold. Yeah. And if they would have had more of that,
they could have sprinkled it in so many different places.
Yeah, and I really hope there's an extended cut of this movie somewhere, because I've read that there's 10 to 20 minutes of Joker that's cut out of this movie, and I can imagine how many more scenes there are of that, but I mean, that was something that me and you said pretty much immediately when the credits rolled. It was like, man, I want more Joker.
More. Yeah, we loved the movie as it was. Like I said, other than these few little parts, but more Joker would have been awesome. It really would have. Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something I don't think you had much of a problem with it, and I didn't necessarily have a problem with it. But this is one of my main fears walking into this movie when Will Smith was announced, was that, oh God, Will Smith is going to turn this into the Deadshot movie.
Yeah.
Because he has a reputation now, probably over the past 10 years, where he got a really big head, and now every movie that he's a part of, he wants the script changed to his benefit. He wants all the best lines. He wants a scene for his son. He wants a scene for his wife.
Might not be all him either.
Well, yeah, but still, I'm just saying he's got a reputation. There's Quentin Tarantino's got stories about when he wanted him to play in Django. Even though the movie ended up being trash, M. Night Shyamalan got bullied a lot in whatever the fuck that movie, After Earth. Mm-hmm. So I whenever Will Smith was cast, I was like, well, that's really cool. And then immediately after, I was like, oh fuck,
this might be bad.
Yeah, and it is. I can tell that there was a lot of reviews that say, oh, so everybody's fears about Deadshot and Will Smith, it didn't happen in this. I think it did, but it wasn't to the point where it hurt the movie. Mm-hmm. I can definitely tell that the script and the writing, or the editing at least, was catered to Will Smith's Deadshot. I'd say at least 80% of the best lines are his.
Yeah.
I'd say that, he's, aside from El Diablo, he's the only member of the squad that has this emotional story arc where he kind of grows as a character, where he starts being, this stock villain, but he also has this motivation with his daughter, and he grows, and he's the one that kind of... Rick Flag, it seemed like he was the only...
a little bit of it.
Well, no, I mean, what seemed to me, though, is Rick Flag, it seemed like Deadshot was the only member of the squad that he ever interacted with. Did you see Rick Flag talk to Harley about what they're going to do? Did you see Rick Flag talk to Diablo about what they're going to do?
No.
Every time something happened or something was about to go on or they needed to do something, he's like, Deadshot, and he talks to him.
Well, yeah, but Deadshot's also like the one who's skeptical about it, and he's kind of like even in the very beginning of the show, he's making his demands and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's fucking Will Smith. He's a big character. He's been around since fucking forever. We watched him on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We've listened to him as a fucking rapper. It's who he is. His name is fucking bigger than most of these people put together.
I know but
it is.
Well, that's true, but the character is also bigger than the actor. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it didn't hurt the movie because I enjoyed Will Smith. I thought he did really good in this, and I didn't feel like it was distracting or like he was kind of shoving everybody aside so he can get the spotlight. But I did notice, to me, that stuff was catered to him, and I think that a lot of this Joker's cuts that were made were probably made so that more of the focus was on Deadshot, because I'm willing to bet the majority of the people that went to go see this movie was looking for either A, Harley Quinn, or B, Joker. So they wanted to take some of that stuff away to let Deadshot shine a little bit more than he would have if 10 to 15 minutes of Joker were in this movie.
You know what's funny about that too is even seeing the trailers and everything for the movies, you see a lot of Joker, you see a lot of Harley Quinn, you see Deadshot, but you don't see him so much. So it's kind of funny that
it's like a bait and switch. You think you're seeing a Joker movie and you get to see
they take it away and they say, "Oh, well, Deadshot, we're gonna let you do this, and we're gonna give you this and give you this much screen time." When we saw some of the other characters with some screen time, but we didn't even see who is he? The guy Slipknot. We didn't see him hardly at all in the beginning. We didn't see much of Captain Boomerang. They kind of just brought them in. Katana, they brought them in out of nowhere, and it's like they had so much time that they had spent explaining Deadshot and giving his backstory.
Yeah, the movie even opens with Deadshot.
Yeah,
which
he's the first fucking character.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of a weird thing too, which I didn't even think about until right now. The way that they opened this movie to me was kind of a strange editing choice because they have this scene with Deadshot in his prison cell, and it shows this interaction between him and this prison guard, and then they show
Funny
a scene.
Stuff, by the way.
Yeah, I mean it's a good scene, and then they show Harley Quinn with this having an interaction with this same guard. So I was
funnier.
Yeah, so I was thinking, okay, so they're going to go across all the different characters.
Nope.
And after they go with Deadshot, they go with Harley Quinn, then they switch over to Amanda Waller, and she's talking about getting all these people together, and then the opening Suicide Squad thing starts, and then they go and they start over again, and they start introducing Deadshot.
That's one thing I did not like about the movie is how they kind of you see it in the previews and or not previews, but the trailers where Amanda Waller's sitting there and she's got a book and she's telling you about these people. And then that's what they do. That's how their backstory is introduced. I'm sorry, it sucks. What can you say? There was other ways that they could have done that.
Well, so you're saying you don't like the fact that they kind of spoon-fed us the story. They should have just kind of showed it and let us figure it out. I agree with you. They kind of... I think that was an editing thing, and there is, like I said, there's two cuts of this movie. So this first half felt like a music video, like we got to introduce, it showed Deadshot, and then the screen would freeze, and it'd have like all the little neon colors and show all his stuff, and then they'd have a classic rock song dedicated to him, and then they'd show Harley Quinn, and she's got a classic rock song dedicated to her, and it was like everybody had their own soundtrack. But
I didn't care for it. They could have done something as far. Don't get me wrong. Do I understand the whole? I'm in the military, so I get that whole briefing type of shit. You sit down with a Manila folder, and you're like, okay, this is target number 1, and this is target number 2. But they could have done something where they said these are the people we want to use.
Well, that's what I thought they were going to do with what I was saying with the editing at the beginning of this movie was that they were going to show the interactions between Deadshot and Harley Quinn and Captain Boomerang and El Diablo with this same prison guard that goes over all of them.
Nope.
But they showed the main two, and then they halted it, and then they restarted the movie, and then Amanda Waller started telling everybody one at a time, starting with Deadshot.
They do it a little bit with Killer Croc too, if I'm not mistaken.
It was just those two, and
really?
Then they started the movie. Yeah, so that was a little bit weird to me because it was like they started it and then they stopped and then they rewound it and then they did it in a different way.
Yeah, I would say that was my main thing that made the movie bad. Is how they made
the movie bad, or just that was one of your negatives?
No, I think that's one thing that made the movie bad.
Okay, well, that's pretty much all the main stuff, and I do have some nitpicks. I guess this is some spoilers, but this really isn't spoilers at all. This is just some small scenes in the movie. There's a scene where when they're wheeling out all the squad to get ready to brief them and give them their equipment and everything, there's a prison guard who's already been kind of threatened by the Joker, and he hands Harley Quinn this cell phone to that's like what the Joker asked him to do, I guess.
In plain
but he
sight.
he hands it to her in front of everybody, and she's literally strapped to a chair like Hannibal Lecter, and he hands her this cell phone in plain sight. It's not even like a sleight of the hand, like he's trying to hide it, and everybody sees it. Nobody says anything. Nobody asks for the phone. Nobody asks him any questions. And then that was weird to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. I even leaned over to you. I was like, nobody fucking saw that. There's a lot of dialogue, especially from Amanda Waller, where she's making this, a lot of focus on, okay, we need a team of metahumans, and we need metahumans to fight metahumans, and if we have another Superman that decides to be bad, we need a team of metahumans. There's barely any fucking metahumans in this squad.
Yep.
You got Killer Croc, you got El Diablo. The rest of them are all humans. And even though I love most of the characters, some of them, I don't understand why they're more of a more of a threat to an evil Superman or an evil metahuman than a soldier is. Like
I would just say
Captain Boomerang, for example. Okay, so you're going to trade a soldier for a guy that throws boomerangs, and then you've got Killer Croc is cool, but he's literally just a strong guy. So I mean, that was a little bit of a weird kind of, you have to kind of suspend your disbelief because you're in a comic book movie. But to me, it was like you're making all this focus on metahumans, and you literally have 2 in a group of 7.
Technically, you have 3 because Killer Croc's a metahuman, right?
Killer Croc and El Diablo are the only metahumans.
And Enchantress.
Enchantress isn't part of the team.
She's not? You don't think so?
No, she was already released. But anyway, so that was interesting to me that they kept putting all this focus on metahumans. I think that was kind of a writing thing. But there's a scene which is in the trailers where Will Smith is like, "We're the patsies, we're the cover-ups. Don't forget, and he kind of looks at the camera. We're the bad guys." To me, that was kind of corny because it felt like kind of like at the beginning of the movie, like you were talking about, they were trying to spoon feed us all the backstory. To me, that was like them trying to spoon feed us
don't forget
some exposition, hey, don't forget these guys are the bad guys, and it's like, motherfucker, we know.
Well, not only that, but they've got another scene with Harley, which I'm sure is in one of the trailers too, where she's like, "What? We're the bad guys. It's what we do." Yeah,
they have to keep beating you over the head with it, and instead of just
hey, we fucking get it.
We know you're villains. Yeah, that was a nitpick. Some of the Joker's flashbacks, and one of them, which was in the very first Comic-Con trailer at the end, where he's Harley Quinn strapped to the table and he's about to electrocute her, and he's like, "I'm gonna hurt you really bad."
Yeah.
Some of those scenes with the flashbacks had this really weird, kind of erratic neon acid effect. Like where it sped up really quick and then it slowed down and then it would play normal and then it would kind of bleed green or purple like a cigarette burn and then it would kind of speed up again. That was a little bit strange.
I think that was just kind of
that's just a style thing, but
to
it
his
was
character.
Yeah,
like an homage. Hey,
yeah,
this is for the Joker type of stuff.
Something that you had mentioned that is a big pet peeve for me too, which we've already kind of talked about. There's a lot of scenes from these trailers that aren't even in this movie.
We talked about this literally 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes after leaving the theater. We were still on our way home, and I was like, that really irked me.
Yeah, and that's something that happens occasionally with editing, but there's a lot of scenes. Like there's the scene with Harley passing everybody out drinks, isn't in the movie. The scene with Joker, I mean, we've already said there's a lot of Joker that's been cut, but there's a scene with Joker talking to that guy, "I can't wait to show you my toys." That's not in the movie. There's a scene where it shows Joker, pulling the pin on a grenade and going back into the shadows. That's not in the movie. Probably 30% of the trailers we've seen so far and the big kind of highlight scenes in those trailers aren't in this movie.
Even there.
So I don't know if these are scenes that were traded for other scenes or if this is part of a different cut.
I'm just hoping it's the non-theatrical version.
Yeah, like an ultimate cut or whatever.
Yeah, I really do.
I don't know. See, that's something that's interesting too, because like I said, there was reports of 2 different cuts, one studio and one David Ayer, but now he's coming out today with some news reports, and he's pretty much taking all the responsibility, saying that this is my cut of the movie.
I saw that,
and I like that because one, I don't believe it for one. I think he's just trying to be a team player, and he's trying not to be a whiny bitch like a lot of directors we've had the past year or so.
The studio took over.
Yeah, as soon as the movie comes out and one negative review comes out, like it happened a little bit with Joss Whedon with Avengers Age of Ultron. The biggest one was probably Josh Trank with that Fantastic Four pile of shit. And then it also happened with Zack Snyder. Like a day after the movie's reviews start coming out, they're like, "Well, this isn't really the movie that I made. This is just the movie that the studio cut together and released." And I like the fact that we have a director that, even though I don't believe this is exactly his vision, he's willing to come out and take the bullet and say, "Listen, this is my movie. This is what I made. There's no extended director's David Ayer exclusive cut out there. This is my movie." So yeah. So I like that, but it also I'm hesitant to believe him, and I really do hope that we get some kind of an ultimate cut like we did with Batman v Superman, because to me the ultimate cut of that movie was a lot better than and I'd love to see a cut with this, with all those extra scenes with the Joker and everything like that. I think it could only add to the movie.
I agree with that completely.
And my last little pet peeve, and then we'll start wrapping up our thoughts, is there's a post-credit scene in this movie, which is something that was interesting because it seemed like DC was so adamant about not copying Marvel that they were never going to have post-credit scenes, and then in this one we did get one finally. But to me, it didn't really go anywhere. This is okay. Spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know the post-credit scene, go ahead and skip a few minutes to our final thoughts. But the post-credit scene is basically Amanda Waller sitting down with Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne's telling her that, okay, you're under my protection now, and I want what I've asked you for. And she hands him this folder with pictures of Barry Allen and Arthur Curry, who is Flash and Aquaman. And he gets ready to leave and leaves this diner or wherever they're at, and she says, you should quit working at night, or something along those lines. Which, it's a good back and forth scene between them, but to me, it didn't tell us anything that we didn't already know at the end of Batman v Superman.
Not only that, but after Comic-Con, and we're able to see the trailers, or some trailers for the
Justice
League. Yeah, exactly. You see that they're all going to be working together. You know Batman goes after him. You know he gets the information from somebody. Why waste this post-credit scene on this bullshit?
Well, I mean, just to me, they have the scene in Batman v Superman where he finds the
flash drive.
He gets the files from Lex Luthor, which has all these little clips of Aquaman and Cyborg and the Flash. And by the end of the movie, he tells Diana Prince, like, okay, I'm going to start looking for these people. You have to help me. So you already know he's looking for them, and he knows what they look like. He's got videos of them. He knows what they look like. Lex Luthor has all the information, so I don't understand why he needs to go to Amanda Waller to get something that Lex Luthor didn't already know.
Right.
So to me, that was kind of a waste. That was almost like an excuse of putting a scene in there just so they can say, okay, finally, we gave you a post-credit scene. Yeah. I think it would have been a lot better had they given us something. So we got scenes of Batman in this. We got the little cameo by the Flash. Mm-hmm. To me, they should have either thrown in something with Cyborg or Aquaman, or they should have given something as like a stinger for the upcoming Wonder Woman movie, which is going to be before Justice League.
Yep, I'm really excited about that one. Looks good.
So that was another nitpick. It's a post-credit scene that has no play in the story of the movie whatsoever. But so why don't you wrap up your thoughts on the movie overall?
Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I hate that this movie has gotten such a bad rap already. Mm-hmm. It's 2 days in. Yeah,
I'm not one to really care too much what critics think. There's plenty of movies that I love that the critics shit on. There's plenty of movies that the critics love that I think is garbage. But the thing that's unfortunate about this, especially after all the backlash from Batman v Superman, is I think there's a lot of people who will really end up liking this movie who are not going to go see it because of all the bad talk.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. There's so many people when stuff like this happens that just say, oh, everybody says it's terrible, I'm not going to go and see it. And I was talking to two people I work with today. I was like, you got to see this movie. And they're like, all I've heard is bad shit. I told them, no, you don't understand. You have to see. It's something you have to see for yourself. Make up your own mind. Don't follow the crowd. If this is something you've been psyched about since the very beginning, since you found out it was happening, go and see this movie. Do not sell it short. Don't go in there thinking, oh, everybody says it sucks. Everybody says it sucks. Go in there ready to have fun, ready to see some awesome scenes with Quinn and Joker, Deadshot, and enjoy it.
Just walk in with no expectations. Don't walk in with expecting to hate it. Because if you walk in expecting to hate it, you're going to hate it. Don't walk in thinking it's going to be like the Godfather of superhero movies because you're going to walk out thinking, well, that didn't quite measure up. Just walk in.
Or a comedy.
Walk in and try to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, this was a really good step forward from Batman v Superman. It did everything, for the most part, that people were bitching that they didn't do with that movie. Mm-hmm. I loved all the characters. I loved Jared Leto's Joker. I thought it was really unique, and I liked his new take. I'm excited to see what he does next. It really makes me excited for Ben Affleck's Batman movie, because everything I keep seeing him do, it just makes me more and more on board for his version of Batman.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. There's a lot of problems with it. It's not perfect, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. This is like Deadpool to me as far as just pure enjoyment factor.
It's fun.
Deadpool was not like this extreme, complex superhero story. It was very basic, but you know what? It was fucking fun. It was hilarious the whole way through.
Yep.
And this movie is exactly the same way.
Exactly.
It's got some dark stuff to it here and there, but it's not bad enough for you where you can't take your kids. I think kids would like this. I think if you're a comic book movie fan, you're gonna like this. If you're a DC movie fan, you're really gonna like this. If you're a Marvel fan, you're gonna like this. Don't be a blind fanboy. Go see a movie to enjoy it. So yeah, I like this movie a lot. I'm gonna recommend them seeing it. I'm gonna kind of, to eliminate some confusion, I'm gonna kind of refine my rating system down to just 3 ratings now. So my rating system before was like 5 ratings. Now it's just gonna be either skip it, see it, or buy it. So skip it meaning like a D or an F. See it meaning like B and C, like you should watch it, and then buy it being the best rating that we can give it, being like, yes, you should see it, and yes, you should own it because you're going to watch it over and over again.
Yep.
So what would you give this?
Buy it.
I'm going to give it a buy it as well. So this has been...
Fuck you if you say otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. So Suicide Squad kicks ass, guys. Go check it out. This has been another review by Cody and Holly off the Cody Leach podcast. Go ahead and like and subscribe below on SoundCloud or on YouTube. Leave any comments or questions or your own views on this movie down below in the comment section. And you can also find me with the hashtag the Cody Leach podcast on Twitter.
What you having?
Beer.
Whiskey.
What am I, 12?
How about you, hot stuff?
Water.
That's a good idea, honey.